Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Los Banos Talk. My name is Justin Collins. Today's episode, I'm interviewing Rhonda Lowe. She's the local business advisor for the Small Business Development Center here in Los Banos, and she's going to talk to us today a little bit about some of the things that are coming down the pipeline and some business strategies that we can do as the economy reopens, and what that might look like and what you can do as a small business owner to capitalize on it. And we'll get into all of that in just a moment, right after a brief message from our sponsor.
Hey there, small business owner. COVID-19 restrictions might be going away, but it's still extremely important for your business to have an online presence, which is why you need Curly Admin. Online traffic and sales have been increasing for years, long before COVID-19. Many customers like to research a business online first, and some customers will still prefer to stay home for a variety of reasons. And chances are, even when they are out, they're on their phone, which is why your small business needs a great-looking website on both mobile and desktop. And that's why you need Curly Admin. Curly Admin is a local Los Banos business that builds custom websites and even manages it for you. And Curly Admin is local right here in Los Banos, which means that getting support is easy and fast. For pricing and details, go to www.curlyadmin.com. Again, that's curlyadmin.com.
And we're back. Thanks for watching. So, Rhonda, without further ado, could you please introduce yourself?
Well, thank you for having me, Justin. I appreciate the opportunity to talk about our local business community. I'm Rhonda Lowe with Rhonda Lowe Consulting, and I am also a business advisor with UC Merced, SBDC, and Valley Sierra SBDC, where we work with Stanislaus and Tuolumne counties. So I'm really happy to be here. Thank you.
Right. That's why I wanted to have you on the show, because I know that you're a great resource when it comes to talking about business strategy. And you've also been a coach and a friend to my business, so I appreciate it. And so I wanted to get some of your opinions and thoughts on what's coming down the pipeline. So as we know, right, California reopens, so to speak, June 15th. I wasn't aware it was closed, but I guess it reopens June 15th. And that basically means that if you're vaccinated, you don't have to wear a mask. And it also basically means that occupancy restrictions go away. It means that like restrictions on like indoor dining for restaurants go away, and the color-coded tier system goes away. So what are some of the things you think that small business owners like here in Los Banos should be thinking about in preparation for that June 15th day?
When I was thinking about this earlier, I was thinking back to a Charles Dickens quote. It was the best of times, it was the worst of times. And I think that really sums up a lot of what I saw with businesses, especially small and independent businesses over the last 14 months. And now that we're moving forward to this reopening of California, I in some ways, I really feel like I'm in more of a muddled state than ever before, because I think that counties are going to operate differently. They're going to take the guidelines differently from one county to the next. So it'll be really interesting to see how from the top down it actually translates to our local businesses. So one of the things one of the 3 or 4 things that I saw working through this last 14 months, the businesses that learned how to do their business in a new way, doing the old things but in a new way, were the ones that had some of the best of times. The ones that had good financials, and the ones that had cash reserves, and the ones that had strong social media presence and a website. Those were the ones that came through this the easiest and really set them up for being successful post-pandemic, whatever exactly that's going to mean for us. The opposite of that is the ones that weren't prepared that way. They're the ones that are going to still struggle even more. So even though we're opening up, and we think we know what that's going to look like, they're still going to have some struggles ahead of them that they're going to need to look to work on.
I think one thing that I think there's some business owners out there that thought we're going to ride this out. resist the, getting the social media and stuff like that. And now we're finally here and we don't need it still. I think they're still in for kind of a rude awakening, because I think if anything, this has forced even like the older generation to go more online. And it's basically people have gotten comfortable with it. And it's kind of forced some people to get comfortable with it. And now I think people are still gonna, because I mean, prior to COVID, online sales was always perpetually tracking upwards. And it's not just a COVID thing. I mean, that was going that direction anyway. So I think there's still a need for businesses to figure out how they're going to adapt, stay with that online community, keep that social media presence, because even though, yes, more people are going to go out, they're still on their phone. They're still always connected to the internet. So I think it still makes sense to invest in that.
You're right. And one thing that we're finding really across the board is that COVID changed the shopping habits of the consumer. They changed the way they want to shop, and they've changed the level of customer service that they're looking for and expecting now. And we're finding that they really want that blend. And the buzzword right now is omnichannel marketing. And that's where, whether they're coming into your store or whether they're shopping with you online, they want that convenience there of doing so. And in fact, the most popular way of shopping right now is where they purchase online and they pick it up in your store. So it's kind of that blend of the two ways to shop. And so the businesses that are willing to adapt to that are going to be the ones that are going to really see the greatest growth over the next 12 to 18 months as we move through this time.
I mean, from clients maybe you've had here in Los Banos, how feasible or easy would you say that it would be for, like, say, a business downtown, or say a small business in town to offer pickup? I mean, I guess realistically, they kind of need to have a website, and they need to have their inventory there and up to date, and some way to know that someone purchased and received. And for the most part, is there something else I'm missing, or is that about?
I think that's the real basics of it. And the biggest obstacle is just switching that mindset, especially if it's somebody that's been in business for a long time and maybe even achieved a really nice level of success in the way things operated in the past. Nobody saw COVID coming, and nobody had a clue as to the impact that it was going to have on us, both as a community and as a business person. And frankly, I'm pretty kind of glad that I'm not a business person anymore, where I have a retail store trying to figure all of this out. But there are things that you can do, and it doesn't have to be a complex kind of setup. I know that they had curbside pickup during COVID with many of the stores downtown. I think really it's just putting some systems in place, and that's what I've been working with my clients is kind of creating a new structure that you do business in, where you incorporate both the online and the in-person shopping experience for your clients to make it easy for them.
And I think also too, in terms of experiential changes or whatnot, I myself have found, and my wife and many other I've talked to, that I've come to like outdoor dining. Like, I didn't really, I always never really opted for the outdoor option, but I've done it a few times, and it's actually really nice if the weather's good, and they were talking in the last city council meeting about, well, they were saying they want to extend the outdoor dining to continue to allow that even past the June 15th, but they're looking at getting rid of that ordinance entirely and maybe allowing restaurants to permanently do outdoor dining. And I know in downtown, they're talking about widening the sidewalks and having outdoor dining for businesses. I mean, do you think maybe that's a trend or an increased in popularity maybe from the pandemic?
it probably has increased for us. It's not a new concept in other communities, even as close as Turlock and Merced. We've seen that where like they would do bump outs from the sidewalk and taking over, you know, a couple of parking spaces and things like that to make it feasible, you know, so that you're not blocking the whole sidewalk kind of thing. So it is an option. It probably requires some planning on the city's part in order to make that happen. And, you know, I frankly was kind of surprised at how popular, even during the chilly winter time, that there were still people that were willing to eat outdoors here because they just wanted to be able to eat out of their home, to go out to eat somewhere. And so hats off to the restaurants that stepped it up and got the canopies and the tents and the outdoor heaters and things like that to make it at least an option if somebody chose to go and eat outdoors. And I know that was not an easy thing for them to do, and it wasn't a cheap thing for them to do that. But I think that made the difference, and it showed them stepping up to the plate on behalf of their customers.
Now, this is just a personal observation, but just something I've kind of seen. The last like 2 springish festivals, if you will, or outdoor type street events have been a lot busier than I thought they would be. And I know from history, after the Spanish flu pandemic, we had the Roaring 20s, and there was a big economic boom because there was a slight dip in population, which has, yes, happened. It caused, it was better employment opportunity for people. And then there was kind of this economic boom of people basically being tired of being shuttered in, so to speak, and just wanting to get out and kind of just like, here, take my money. I want to do something. I kind of saw that recently at the fairs. I mean, I feel optimistic about this summer. What do you think in terms of, do you think there's a chance to capitalize on that sentiment or something for local businesses?
Well, all the signs that we are seeing and all the reports that we're getting is that there's going to be a boom for retail. And so I'm really excited about that. And I'm sure, you know, retailers are as well. And that's one thing that, you know, I really encourage them to prepare for that and to do the things to make sure that their customers feel safe when they walk in their store, that they've assured them that they're taking their safety seriously and all of that. And so I'm looking forward to that. And I think there's still, you know, the 2 camps, some that you know, are not going to go back out for a while. They're going to wait and test the waters and wait and see what happens kind of thing. And then there's the others that they never really changed their habits all that much, you know, through the whole thing. And so it was just those 2 sides. So I think now we're going to see more of that shift towards a person that goes, well, this is starting to feel good. You know, even just, you know, if you weren't even going to the grocery store before, now you're venturing out for that. I think we're going to see people just move forward in that direction, and little by little see that big shift overall in our community because of that, with people feeling safer doing that.
One of the concerns that I've had, which is with small businesses, and it's just something I've noticed over time, is that when it comes to like big box retailers, people will, you know, they'll get their order wrong 1,000,000 times. They'll sell them a damaged good and then they have to return it 1,000 times. They'll mess up. Employees will offend them and they'll go back. But when it comes to small businesses, one little mistake and they feel the need to punish that small business and blast them, right? And I find that interesting and sad. I don't know why it is that way. But when it comes to the regulations, mask, safety precautions, et cetera, I think that's going to be one of those where small businesses are going to really have to kind of tiptoe a bit still to try to make sure they don't alienate anybody. I mean, for me, I'm thinking it still makes sense to offer pickup and things like that, or delivery for those customers that don't feel comfortable. But then at the same time, for those who do feel comfortable, open things up back to a sense of normalcy to the best you can, but still maybe doing things like wiping the counters, or maybe even just maybe someone could put up a sign that says, if please wear a mask unless you're vaccinated, and then just not, go by honor system. At least it's like you're trying. Because the thing is, you're not going to be able to really enforce it. I mean, you can try, but you're going to upset a lot of people just simply trying to enforce it. And then there's going to be other people who are going to be mad that you're not enforcing it. So you're in a rock and a hard place.
Yeah.
So I feel like your best bet's to just clean well and offer pickup or something, just give that option.
I think making it obvious that you've gone over and above, that you're meeting, the minimum requirements and then some, having the hand sanitizer, taking all the steps and almost making it, super obvious that you've done that will put many people's minds at ease through all of this. There's going to be some that you couldn't convince one way or the other. And you just have to go with it. It's not really a battle that you can win everyone on, in my opinion. It's just a tough spot that they're in. So they just, do the best that they can.
Yeah, unfortunately, it kind of got political, and then it's become like almost like a social argument. And then it became its own thing, and it's almost not even about the virus anymore. It's almost like symbolic of your political affiliation and stuff at this point. And so it's created its own set of issues. But for a small business owner, you want to sell to both Democrats and Republicans. You want to sell to everybody who wants your goods and services. So it's not going to be the easiest thing in the world, but you're going to have to try and find a way to not upset either, allow people who want to kind of go back to a sense of normalcy to do so, but not necessarily at the expense of those who want safety. And you're going to have to walk that tightrope. Or maybe, I don't know, maybe your business is set up in a weird way to where almost all your customers are of one persuasion or the other. And so you basically have to go to that extreme anyway, because maybe your niche just attracts that type of clientele. I don't know. We kind of saw that thing with like Trader Joe's and some other places where they were kind of higher end. And then as a result, they kind of needed to be extreme on their mask policy and such because their customers demanded it.
Right. Well, I think back to a meme I saw a long, long time ago that I always like, and it says your vibe attracts your tribe. And I think a lot of times that when we have a business, because of who we are and how we do our business, it attracts like-minded people. And so that may make it easier for some of them. And especially if they're really sensitive and really acutely aware of what their customers are saying and kind of their feedback from their customers, and use that really as the guideline on how to move forward with their business, because it could change from one business to the next. And I think you're probably on to that. Whether there's a psychology involved in that, I'm not sure, but I do think that we tend to draw people to our businesses that are like-minded with us.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely see that with certain stores. And then, I mean, sometimes there's, a business owner and he's very, very political. And then it seems like all his customers are kind of like-minded. And that's fine. If you can do business that way, then you do that, but most business owners would try to be apolitical if possible.
Right. Yeah, and I think turning it into a political thing, and maybe that's where the business owners can try to make a difference and look at it from an economic standpoint. They're trying to make a sale and not take a political stance in that. And maybe that would be one of the ways that they could do that is not turn it political.
And actually, we've been kind of hearing customers say more of that. There were people who wanted to boycott Coke, right? Coca-Cola, because they were kind of doing political stuff. And then Nike, same thing. And there's been people who basically saying, we would like companies to no longer be political. We just want your products and services, but we don't want your morals. We just want your products and services.
Yeah.
And I think that's a fair thing too. I think some people are kind of tired of political values pushed on them, and they would just like to buy the ice cream without getting your political take on the president, you know?
Yeah, that's true. And I think we've seen that more than ever, in recent history. And maybe there's more than a few of us that would just like a mental break, just let me buy the ice cream and nothing more than that. But there's also people that take a real firm stand in supporting or not supporting somebody that goes against their beliefs. And I have to let them be that way too, I suppose, because that's, that's what our rights are all about.
Yeah. Well, I think some stores is kind of more obvious, right, with that. Like, for example, you're a gun shop. Okay, so you're probably going to be Second Amendment supporting, and there is a party that supports it more than the other. So that's pretty straightforward. That makes sense to me if you want to be political and take that when you're like a gun shop or something. But if you're a coffee shop or a restaurant, I wouldn't want to be political in that case, because I feel like that's really, there's no reason to be. It doesn't make sense.
I know I can think of a couple places I've been into that, and one of them was a coffee shop in another area, that it was kind of entering into a giant conversation about a political position that somebody there was taking, and it became kind of a free-for-all sort of thing, which was fine for the people involved, but for those that were not involved, it was kind of discomforting and certainly not a peaceful meal kind of thing.
Right. Right. I just want my espresso. I'm really not interested in hearing your philosophical take on the economy. I would just like my espresso, please. No, I totally get that. And I think that's what businesses are going to try to do. When I talk to business owners about the mask, they always are kind of like, they almost get scared, and they're kind of just like, we're just trying to be neutral, man. We don't want to upset anybody. Like, just do what you want to do. Most of the business owners I've talked to in Los Banos, they just really want to let you be you and not upset you to the best of their ability. And it's not that they don't care. They take the safety seriously. There's like no right answer here. And they just really, so I think people should also give them a break a little bit. Is what I'm saying too. Maybe kind of chill out a little bit, take a step back and think of, if you were in their position, what it would be like to have 50% of people wanting one thing and 50% of the other, and somehow they're supposed to service 100% of the customers. Right. That's a tough spot.
It is. Yeah, I think you're right. And with the whole social media option that's out there now, where, you can be blasted for one thing or the other, and that's sad. And I mean, you even look like what's happening on our airplanes, with people getting so overly serious and violent, and I pray to God that never happens here in Los Banos with any of our businesses. And that more than anything, I just want to business and get back on their feet and get profitable again and get moving beyond this.
So, with that being said, I mean, what are maybe some steps that small businesses could take to try to get back to that? I guess then we're talking in abstract, but with the economy opening up again, so to speak, what is something they could do tangibly to prepare? Is there grants or loans to help them? Is there something you advise? What would you say?
Well, grants and loans are kind of petering out a little bit now. We still have the EIDL to the end of the year, as long as funds are still there. And that's a loan. It's a 30-year loan at 3 3/4% interest. There are some, I started to say hoops, and I guess that's one word for it, some steps that you have to go through. You do have to be able to demonstrate an impact from COVID-19 prior to 2020. So you have to show that you had a profit in 2019 and that COVID COVID-19 impacted your business in 2020. You had to have been in business prior to January 20th of 2020. And so not everybody, that fits for them. PPP, the funds are pretty much gone on that. So there's less and less funding available. So now it's I look at it as kind of where the rubber meets the road, where we're actually doing the work to get businesses up and running again. And so some of the things that I like to work with my clients are look at the things that have worked for you these past 14 months, even though it's been a roller coaster ride and we were open and we were shut and we were open and we were shut. Some things actually worked for people and some just didn't. And so expand on the things that worked for you and look at the things that didn't work. So I still am a contender for every business needs a website. Every business needs a website. You need to have that presence online. And even if it's just a placeholder, so when somebody does a Google search for a coffee shop in Los Banos, you want to make sure your business shows up in that search. If you don't have a website and you're not on social media, you're not going to show up. And so that's a really important thing. And that's something that's not expensive to do. Social media is free to start. You don't have to pay to play. A website is not expensive to do. And it's something that there's people out there that'll help you. SBDC will help you at no charge to you to have that presence. And so having that available to you, and look at what plans you need to put in place. What things do you need to change? And then create that plan and that system to make that happen. So those are some of the really basic things that you should do. The other thing, and I feel real passionate about this, is you need to start planning for anything that could happen in the future. You need to have cash reserves. It used to be 3 to 6 months. Now they're saying 6 to 9 months to get you past any kind of rough waters. We hope to God that we don't have a COVID-20 or 21 or anything, but you want to make sure that you've got some cash reserves to help you get through those trying times. And then the other thing is to make sure you've got strong financial records. You need to understand the financial health of your business. And that comes from a balance sheet, and it comes from a profit and loss. And it doesn't come from guessing and just supposing that you got money coming in the cash register, so you must be doing okay. If you don't have a good profit margin, you can have money coming in, but be working at a deficit. So understanding the financial health of your business has been something that I've been focusing on, because we saw it was something that took businesses down during this time.
No, definitely. I mean, being organized, knowing what's really coming in, understanding your business, having that online presence, all those things help. And I guess we'll touch on one last thing that's kind of been, nationally, they've been talking about it. I don't know if it's so much a problem here in Los Banos, but I was going to ask your opinion. Labor shortage. They've been saying it's been difficult to hire people. From your experience, have you seen that or felt that here in Los Banos, or do you feel like our labor market's more or less healthy or as usual?
I haven't seen or heard a lot of feedback of the shortage here, because so many of our independent businesses are really small in the number of employees that they employed prior to COVID and then going through all of that. I am seeing it in larger cities that I work in, through larger cities in Merced and Stanislaus and Tuolumne counties. We're seeing it much more in those areas. Part of it is our own undoing with people getting more money on unemployment than they were being offered a job back. And that's never a good situation for the business owner, because you can only offer so much. And so I think that's going to be something that's going to have to be dealt with. And I've heard that that's something that the president is working on.
Right. And I mean, that's That's kind of that one's kind of a difficult one. And it's also, I mean, I don't really even fault the person either, because it's like, well,
Yeah.
why would they take a cut in money and
Yeah.
then do more? Even if it wasn't more, even if they said, I'll come back to work, but I still want the old pay. I
Yeah.
mean, why would anyone take a cut in pay regardless? I mean, I mean, we all say, oh, they should, but at the end of the day, let's be real here. Nobody wants to take a cut in pay. That's silly.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's kind of common sense that it plays out that way. But I think here in Los Banos, from what I've seen, it seems okay. I haven't seen too much difficulty with places hiring,
Yeah.
but maybe it really more is like a bigger city problem than it is with us.
Yeah.
But that's good to hear. So in the upcoming city budget, there's plans to work on improving the downtown. Kind of what are some of your thoughts or opinions on that?
I think it's always good if whenever you see improvement in downtowns, and downtowns kind of historically have struggled over the years as malls come in and big shopping centers and online shopping. Downtowns have always been the first to suffer and the most to suffer. And so anytime that you've got an organization like our Downtown Association or Chamber of Commerce or a city that is working to bring some kind of improvement to the area, that I think that's a good thing. And I hope that, the community and the merchants themselves embrace that, because I'm a firm believer that we win together. It's hard to be a team of one and make the impact. So by banding together, I think we can make a much more effective and enticing downtown.
No, I agree. I was actually kind of thinking, well, for me, I mean, being a business to business model business, I want to see our small businesses improve and get better. And downtowns are often where there's a lot of small businesses. In a downtown, it's more small businesses than box store chains and such. So, I mean, to me, that's one thing. There's also kind of this renaissance lately of downtowns. Actually, go figure. They say millennials and Gen Z really like to go out to eat, which is true. We do. And that we like the experiential, going out somewhere and kind of enjoying the scenery and such, which is true. I mean, that does describe me and people I know around my age's consuming habits. And downtown gives us that. And we have this thing where we like small businesses and we like artisan and we like independent and we like the idea it's artistic, like it's made by someone here locally and not in a factory. Like to us, that's special. And so we like the idea of downtown, and even that's where like coffee art, making the little like latte art, because we kind of like that personal touch thing, I guess,
Right.
because we grew up in a world where everything was plastic and it was cool that it was all plastic and all looked the same. And then I think we grew up and we're kind of like, we nostalgically long for the days where things were different and unique, because we never got that, I guess, and I don't know, but it's kind of like, it's kind of goes in cycles, right? It's kind of, but in a way, yeah, I mean, malls are kind of dead, but downtowns are kind of coming back. So I think there's potential, but I also think it's just a good investment on the city's part, because I think they'll basically make that money back in sales tax revenue in the long run. That's kind of my thinking. If it increases commercial activity, they'll basically make it back.
Well, I'd love to talk to the thing that you brought up about experiential experiences. Maybe that's an oxymoron. That the whole experiencing, and it's actually something that I've been a proponent of even before COVID-19, because people are looking for experiences now, and they will frequent a business that offers something that makes them unique from the store down the block or the big box stores or the online. And that's what can set a store apart from online shopping. You can shop on Amazon, but it's never going to be an experience. It is just shopping. But if you have a business where you can do in-store demos, or maybe you hold a poetry reading, or you have a cooking class, those kinds of things are what would draw somebody in, that would take them away from online shopping. And small businesses have that opportunity to do that, and they have the ability to pivot and to do things much faster than the big stores do. You'll never see something like that, in a Walmart, for instance. I don't think you would. And look at Costco as one kind of opposite to that, where when they had the sampling in the store, how much more they would sell of those products. So doing that on a local level in your small independently owned business is really a surefire way of growing your business and drawing people in.
No, I really agree with that. I remember when I was stationed in Monterey, there was a coffee shop that did every Thursday night poetry slam and talent competition. And I myself used to go enter, you'll laugh, stand-up comedy, okay? And I used to go there and practice stand-up comedy. And there'd be other people who do other talents and play music or whatever. But they were killing it. So many people in there. You could barely stand up in there. The amount of people in there. And they were all buying coffee too. They weren't just there for they were also buying coffee. And I mean, that's not all. If I was to think of in Los Banos, where there's some experience or things you like. I think a good example is Christmas time, Country Duck. A lot of people like to go to the Country Duck, even if it's not even to buy anything at Christmas, just they want to take their kid through the store because they know she goes all out on the window decorations and the Christmas stuff. And it's almost like a little tradition and a little like experience that you feel like you got to do for Christmas in Los Banos, like is to go to the Country Duck at least once in November, December, and walk through. And I think it's like when you go to those Japanese steakhouses, right? The teppanyaki, the steak is pretty good, but that's not why you go. You go for the flashy razzle dazzle and the knife flipping and the stuff like that. And I'm not saying that our restaurants should learn how to do knife flipping in their stuff, but what I am saying is that, no, people like the experience. That's totally true. And it's authentic, and it's not something you can really imitate at all. Like Walmart can't imitate that. So that if more of our businesses did try to kind of give their customers a feeling of experience, I think that would really help, one, revitalize downtown, but two, just bring people in and give them a reason to not shop online and to physically come.
And I think just turning on that creativity, brainstorming with somebody, I can't think of a business right off the top of my head that we couldn't come up with an experience that you could do in your business. That would be something that would draw people in. It would be something that you could share on your social media. So you're reaching people both ways, both coming into the store as well as seeing it online. We did see that a lot with during the whole pandemic, where there were stores that said, well, people can't come into my store, but I can sell on my Facebook. I can do a Facebook Live. And they were selling like hotcakes because people were being entertained and they were willing to buy. And they had systems in place that made it easy for them to do that. And so I think it's just kind of flipping that switch and seeing a new way to do an old thing. And that's kind of like my mantra lately.
I remember seeing Sugoi Sushi did this here in Los Banos. It was pretty interesting. I remember pulling up to get pickup one day, and they came out in a full ninja costume. And that way they'd have their mask on. And I thought that was a really clever way of wearing the mask, but not making people feel weird, and then giving you like this experience.
And it was memorable. You remembered that.
Right. I remember that. And I thought that was pretty funny. And I wanted to go out of my way and tell the owner I thought that was awesome, but she didn't come out at the time. But the point is I remember that. I thought that was so cool that they did that as a clever way to incorporate the masks, but not really make it weird. And I don't know. I thought it was great. but there's so many other things that other businesses in town could do. But yeah, if they give people a reason to come into their store, it's not just a store, but it's also an experience. Then because a lot of millennials like paying for the experience. They even showed with, like, in terms of Vegas, gambling is down, but dining and like things like rocket jump and like other, like, when the rises are up. And time again they're saying the younger generation likes to pay for like experience things, entertainment, short-term entertainment and stuff like that.
Right. Definitely. So if a business can start adapting that, and maybe it's baby steps, starting with something, but just give it a try and just keep finessing it. If it doesn't work exactly how you wanted it, just tweak it a little bit and keep working it until you really hit on that magic thing that's going to bring the most people in.
Great. Well, Rhonda, I want to thank you so much for coming on my show. Once again, could you let the audience know what's the name of your consulting firm?
It's Rhonda Lowe Consulting, and my website is rhondaloweconsulting.com.
Great. So if you want to get in touch with Rhonda and you'd like to talk with her more one-on-one on what she can do to help you improve your business and maybe get that experiential thing we were talking about, definitely hit her up. Please do. She's a wealth of knowledge, information, and a good friend of mine as well. If you haven't already, please like, follow, subscribe to Los Banos Talk. We have Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, Twitter, and of course, LosBanosTalk.com. You can become a supporter of Los Banos Talk for just $4.99 a month and gain access to all the videos first and ad-free, plus behind-the-scenes bonus content and opinion and commentary. Once again, my name is Justin Collins, and I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day.